And joining me now is Amisha Cross, Democratic strategist and former advisor to the Obama campaign, and Brendan Buck, MSNBC political analyst and former press secretary to House Speaker John Boehner. So thank you both for being here. Amisha, I want to start with you. Hegseth is having to assure senators, as Julie just said, that he won't drink when he becomes defense secretary. That's sort of remarkable that you have to make a promise like that. What's your gut sense here? Do you think he'll actually get through with promises like that?
Well, I think that it's a very interesting term, but it also showcases how important he sees that drinking problem happens to be to a lot of the people who are going to be taking him under consideration, up to and including President Trump. Looking at that, I think that him going out on a limb and saying that he's not going to drink is consequentially, it should be something that is a denier in and of itself, because as far as we know about alcoholism or people who have alcohol problems, and I've had some people in my own family who've had those issues, saying that you're not going to do something that you've been prone to do as a means to get the job, I think is a very bad place to be. But moreover, he can only stand to lose. He can't lose more than 4. So at this point, he's got to do all the wheeling and dealing he possibly can, make all the promises imaginable to ensure that he gets those votes. I do think that it says something that, President-elect Trump already lost Matt Gaetz. He's not trying to lose another person, at least not before the Senate makes its commentary. But I think that at this point, he's going to do all the wheeling and dealing he has to do, speak to the senators he needs to. Joni Ernst is a very important one as a sexual assault survivor, as a woman who served in the military, because Pete Hegseth's own commentary against women serving in combat is also something problematic when you think of those who have served, may take issue with that, up to and including the issue that he also has with the allegations of sexual assault and rape.
Yeah, and Brendan, Amisha brings up something that I was literally going to transition to, which is Senator Joni Ernst. She appears to be one of the key votes in determining Hegseth's fate. As Amisha just said, she was the first female combat veteran elected to the Senate. She's a vocal advocate for survivors of military sexual trauma. She's implied she's not ready to vote for Hegseth yet, but they did speak yesterday and are set to meet again this week, or again next week. She said they will, quote, continue for constructive conversations. What impact do you think she'll have, especially given that Hegseth has said women shouldn't fight in combat roles? Where do you think this goes here?
Yeah, obviously a critical voice in the Senate. I think a lot of other senators will be looking to her. Obviously, she represents a very conservative state. Normally, the politics for her would be very clear. You stick with Donald Trump's nominee, but this is obviously very personal to her as well. And if she cannot get there, it's not hard to see Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and even a Mitch McConnell back her up and say, I'm not going to do this. Those two issues are very personal for her, but there are probably other senators who have concerns in other dimensions as well. Julie, I think, got to say, like, his financial mismanagement of organizations that he's run previously, his lack of experience running any large organization. The thing I think we should all appreciate is it is still very early. We keep learning more and more about Pete Hegseth basically every week. When you have this much smoke, there's often going to be fire somewhere. We'll find out if there are more allegations that come out, more evidence against him that's going to come out. This is early in the process. He hasn't even begun his FBI background check, or that's probably just beginning if it is. So it's not as though he's coasted through this week and is in the clear now. There's still a lot of time for a lot more damaging things to go around and more excuses for somebody like Joni Ernst or others to vote against him.
Yeah, and there's also this issue of Pete Hegseth, and when it comes to sort of what people have called and what some in his circle have called their Christian nationalist views. The New York Times reported on Hegseth and what they call his battle cry for a new Christian crusade. He wrote in a 2020 book, quote, voting is a weapon, but it's not enough. We don't want to fight, but like our fellow Christians 1,000 years ago, we must. In 2021, his family also joined a church led by a self-described Christian nationalist. So it's interesting that, there's a lot of things that have come up and have bubbled up. And Amisha, what's significant about this when you think about that there isn't as much concern about this issue?
Well, I think that that's the right. Christian nationalism took over the right wing of political discourse a long time ago. We've heard that from multiple candidates. This is one who I think is very fervent, very vocal about his, but he's also, like several others who are made in that image, he's also someone with a vast array of problematic behavior, up to and including cheating on multiple wives. He without sin cast the first stone, but at the end of the day, the people who tend to be the most vocal Christian nationalists are also the individuals who have a lot lot of skeletons in their closet. I think that it's problematic because it denies individuals who may have different religious beliefs. And when you think about someone in as prominent a position as SecDef, where you have people who are entering the military of all different colors, stripes, of all different religious backgrounds, cultural norms, it is radical to think that someone who holds as stringent beliefs as he happens to do would even give those people the time of day, would even allow for them to be able to practice religion in the way that they see it.
Yeah. Brendan, what do you make of that?
I wouldn't waste a lot of time on this issue if I were Democrats or anybody else. If he's a fervent Christian, I don't think that's going to be held against him in any way, and I think it's a bad precedent to try to get into people's religious views as to whether or not they are capable of doing a job. There's a lot of reasons why you can question whether he is capable of doing the job, and if you want to ask questions about what his views on women in the military are, that's it, and whether or not that's related to his religious views, I don't know. But I think you should ask questions based on his capacity to do the job, and there are plenty of those issues outside of his religious views.
Yeah, and there might be the reason why you don't hear as much about these views, because there's a lot of other things that people could be talking about. So thank you so much both to Amisha and to Brendan Buck for your views and bringing your analysis here.